The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to The People's View.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and if you like to attend our meetings, they're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to nashuagop.org to see our website and learn about the events that we have. Hello, and help me welcome our guest, Karen Testerman. Karen, welcome aboard to People's View.
Thank you, Carl. It's nice to be here again.
Right, and now you're active with something else, though. So tell us about your event and the organization here of First Principles, as well as the other one, the National Security Action.
Well, First Principles is partnering with the Center for Security Policy down in Washington, D.C. and High Frontier to bring a National Security Action Summit to New Hampshire. They've actually had these in South Carolina and one in Iowa, and the whole focus is to really try and elevate national security to the level of discussion, so not only for our federal and state policymakers, but also for the average person out there who might have an interest in it and want to understand and maybe discuss it at a little deeper level.
So this is going to be held in July?
On July 25th.
Okay,
it's an all-day affair. Starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, goes until about 5 in the evening. It's going to be at the CRESC, which is SERESC. It's the convention center over in Bedford, just off of River Road. Okay. So it's fairly easy to find. It's the first light north of the airport exit to River Road. So if you take that little exit like you're going to go to the airport, then you can stop there. And when you get to the light, you just go one more light up. And
all right.
it.
Well, I'm sure it's on their website and your website. So
well, there is a website, and if people are interested and would like to go, it's $10 and you get your lunch.
Oh.
It's going to be, you don't have time to go out for lunch, so that's why we're providing it, because it is a very action-packed day. And so it's $10, but if you go to NH for New Hampshire, NSAS.com for the National Security Action Summit.com.
Okay, well, we'll put this information on the screen so people will have it at the end of the show.
Right, and so, you know, we're bringing in big names to talk about these big topics. And so the topics are going to be the threat of jihadism and Sharia, the immigration problem, the declining military, and securing our electric grid.
Oh.
And so they're very interesting topics that we're bringing in big names nationally, but we also have some New Hampshire people that are going to be speaking. So it'll be very interesting for people to come and listen and be involved in it.
Can you tell us some of the names that are going to be the speakers? Or?
Sure. Well, my favorite is Admiral Lyons.
Oh.
He's coming up. He's quite the gentleman, and because he's been around as long as he has, he's like Donald Trump. He doesn't care anymore, and he speaks his mind. So that's really exciting. And then we're going to have from New Hampshire, Thomas Popkick. And the interesting thing about Thomas Popkick, it's P-O-P-I-C. He's from Nashua, and he's quite a researcher on the electric grid and very, very knowledgeable. And a lot of people don't realize, don't even think about what might happen if we were to lose our electric grid, our access to electricity. And then, of course, Frank Gaffney is the chairman of or president of the Center for security policy in Washington, D.C., and he's got quite a long resume that goes along with that, but he's been very conscious about what's going on. And of course, our national security is at risk at a lot of different areas.
He's going to talk about national security and some of the problems
He will.
that it faces?
Yes, he will. And then there's Peter Hussey from the Geostrategic Analyst, and let's see, John Guandolo, who's the founder of Understanding the Threat, and then Phyllis Schlafly's supposed to be there. She's the founder of Eagle Forum. Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, who's with the Task Force on National and Homeland Security. Our own Julianne Cooper is supposed to be speaking on the Sharia, and Congressman King's planning to come. So that,
which congressman?
Congressman Steve King. That is very
From
good.
Iowa.
Yes, from Iowa. He's been very, very involved in a lot of this stuff. And then they're expecting to have James Simpson, who is an economist and researcher. So, and I have to brag a little. Our son, Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Testerman, who's a retired U.S. Air Force officer, is going to speak on the military and the declining military from an insider's type.
Is he still active then?
No, he's retired.
Retired.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be very interesting. And then Bobby Jindal's supposed to be a speaker, as well as, I believe, Rick Santorum's also going to speak as well.
You got quite a selection of people there.
Yes.
How did everybody get this organized?
Well, it's something that the Center for Security Policy has wanted to do, to elevate this, especially during our campaign season here. And, it's going hot and heavy. We've got all kinds of candidates jumping in now, which has really been good. And just like Chris Christie has elevated the discussion on entitlements, then Frank wanted to make sure that we got the national security in here. And, then we're also, First Principles is also trying to make sure that we don't forget those social issues, because the family is the foundational thing. So we're also doing a convention in September called Bringing America Back to Life in New England. And it's actually modeled after the Bringing America Back to Life in Ohio. And they've done it successfully for 6 years there and grown their influence. And the whole idea is to educate the people who already are very, very interested in this, and equip them with to go out and pave the way and talk to and
bring other people aboard.
And a lot of times we don't talk about things, whether it's national security or whether it's the social issues or whether it's economy. A lot of times we won't talk about them because we don't feel very comfortable in defending ourselves. And so sometimes we just need to have somebody come in and say, if you put it this way, it gets your point across and you don't have to feel quite so intimidated.
You're going to have to come back in August so we can learn a little bit more about the program and everything.
Sure,
we'll talk about that.
I'd be happy to do that.
But getting into the security part of it,
yes.
Are you going to talk about some of these things that made that papers recently in the TSA and how they can't find people with all sorts of equipment? I shouldn't say equipment, but harmful things that they've hidden on their body?
It's very, very frightening. There was a movie that was done about a SEAL team, and the fact that they were bringing explosives across the border that were not metal. They were almost liquid, things that are not easily detected, and we certainly should be concerned about that. I think that the other thing, an interesting thing that we often talk about, the illegal immigrants. We don't talk about the fact that we've got legal ones coming in massive numbers, and that maybe we're overloading our system in America by the number of H-1B visas that are legitimate. Those are ones that we use with our industry uses them to bring over talents that they don't think that we have here. And yet there are over how many millions of people who don't have jobs right now and who aren't working or have given up on working that may have some of those talents. But we're sort of bringing in the outside from overseas, and they don't necessarily go through the same screening that someone who's coming in here legally would do. There's a lot of problems. And then the other thing that's happening, and Ann Corcoran brings this out when she talks, is that we've got different cities that are targeted all around the United States for dropping off people from the Sudan or from Syria. But they're not necessarily the persecuted Christians. They're usually the Muslim population that they're bringing over here. So it's, we need to look at this, and we need to have the discussion about, are we overbalancing or, overweighing certain things and taking them out of balance.
Well, we have a lot of that in here in New Hampshire.
Yes.
Both Manchester and Nashua have had a number of refugees, I guess they might call them.
Yeah, the resettlement type
They
programs that are
use a
going
different
on.
word.
Right, and you don't think about it. You just know that all of a sudden it seems like there's a higher population. And Manchester went from being a city that had maybe 2 or 3 different dialects. I mean, French and English and maybe another one, to having 84 different dialects in the city. It's really
Well, I know that's
phenomenal.
one of the problems, and that's one of the things that, personally, I think what we have to do is make sure these people get trained in English.
Right.
Right
agree.
away.
Well, it used to be that when you came in and you were going to become naturalized, that was one of the requirements. Right. And when you came to America, I know my parents and my grandparents didn't teach my family necessarily Japanese, because when you came to America, you were going to be assimilated as an American, so you learned their language, you learned their ways, and not that we didn't celebrate some holidays and some cultural things, but you were an American and you were supposed to expect that. I think we need to get back to that, quite honestly.
Right, yeah. That's
so
they can't assimilate, really, unless you're able to talk the language. And
exactly, right.
And it's not that we're discriminating against anybody. It's just that, if you have a whole bunch of people, you say 84 dialects, how the heck do you communicate?
Right. And it is a breakdown in communication. Yeah. And, even we sit and we text today, and sometimes you read that text and you take it one way, and then you go back and reread it and said, oh, I missed this word, and it completely changes the meaning. So I can imagine when you don't have command of the language.
Yeah, I mean, that perpetrates segregation in a way.
Yes, it does.
No communication. You get to somebody who you can speak with, and then you have a whole bunch of little groups there.
Right.
And then they start having disagreements and stuff.
So the other thing that I think is really important in this overall discussion that sometimes gets lost in the process is this electric grid. And the fact that if we were to lose, and you've got to really start using your creative imagination on this one. What happens if for some reason, either by solar, a natural disaster, a hurricane or whatever, we lose one of our major transformers and we lose our electricity for a period of time? Well, it's more than just our phone and our computers that we can't use anymore. We can't pump water. We can't pump gas. So that means you can't go from place to place. Our transportation starts to break down. You've got a generator in all likelihood, but that generator runs off of gasoline. So what do you do there? There are all kinds of things that we are totally dependent upon electricity for. And it's been back in the 50s, I believe, when the U.S. government discovered that they could harden their electricity, make sure that their communications were safe and so forth. and that there were some relatively simple things that we could do to secure our electric grid. Well, we haven't done it yet. And I think there's been some research done on the solar system, and that we're due to have something happen. They say it's about
You mean the
150.
solar flares and
Yeah, the
stuff?
solar flares. But there's about once every 150 years they do impact the Earth, and so they say we're really overdue for one right now. And then out in San Jose, they had someone take pot shots at the transformers out there. Fortunately, they didn't take out one of the major ones, but had they done that, we don't have the capability in America to build those transformers. We have to order them from either Korea or Germany, and they're regionally specialized. So they, once you put your order in, it's about a year or more before it's ready to be shipped. And then it has to, because they're so big, they have to come by ship. So if we're without electricity, we got some problems here. You know?
That doesn't sound good.
No, it isn't.
Do they have some plans on how to harden these things, or to?
They can harden them.
Yeah.
They do know how to do it. But there's this discussion going on, or blame, whatever you want to say, between the electric companies, which are mostly privately owned, and the federal government. And the federal government says, well, they're yours, you should harden them. And the electricity companies say, well, but you're the government, you should take care of it. So it's not getting done.
We're going to pay for it one way or the other.
Exactly. It's still my dollar that goes out. And, you know, here in New Hampshire, for sure, where our electricity prices are outrageous.
That's
but, you
right,
know, So you're right. And a lot of times we don't think about that. You know? I love it when people say, well, we're just going to get a grant from the federal government. And I think, do you know where that grant comes from?
They take a commission, don't they? When
Yeah,
they
do. It's my tax dollar, and it goes down to Washington, D.C. to pay those people that are working for the government to decide whether or not I qualify, or this state qualifies to get any of it back.
And they only get 80% back. They keep 20%.
Exactly, yeah.
So, well, I don't know. I give you credit for trying to beat your head against the wall to try to get the.
Well, you know, it's Steve Forbes said it last night. You know, you plant an idea, and it takes a while to germinate. And we certainly didn't end up in this situation overnight. It's been some of our choices that we've made along the road, and so now we find ourselves facing some real challenges. And if you look at like William Wilberforce in England, when he started his crusade to abolish slavery, it took him 40 years before he was able to accomplish that. You know, Ronald Reagan discovered that communism was a threat to America, and it took him about 47 years before he was able to convince the people that they needed to take the wall down. So it's a cyclical thing, but it takes time.
Well, I hope it doesn't take too long. We may not have time.
That's right. That's one of the rallying cries. And, you know, it's very interesting on the electric grid type thing, because the Air Force used to had everything in Cheyenne Mountain out in Wyoming, and they moved it all out. Well, recently, they've moved it all back in. So they must think something might
well, it's certainly not a very stable world right now.
No,
both economically as well as you know, religiously, I guess you might say.
Right. Well, the ideology that's out there that says that we can go after anybody who doesn't agree with us is not exactly what we would call tolerant, is it?
No, not quite at all. So you want to really get people more aware of what the problems are in all these areas.
Right.
So it really is a multiple type of event that you're handling.
Right. Well, if people start being a little bit aware of it, someone's going to, I have confidence in the American people, someone's going to pick up on it and have an idea, and it's going to germinate, or they're going to have a discussion, or it's going to be one of these things where we start networking with one another to cause bring about a solution that's going to happen. And it's only going to be when people are made aware of what's going on. So that's why this is a great opportunity, especially since it's only $10 to come, and you get your lunch, and it's a full day of hearing what the experts have, seeing some of the charts and the information that they have to share with you about what's going on, what sorts of things are happening to address it, and it's going to be good.
Well, you're going to have any kind of follow-up to try to keep them going, to do things, get organized, hold meetings or whatever?
Well, it would be wonderful if that was something that followed on. And certainly I know that many of these speakers that are here are interested in making sure that we in some way have some continuity so that it's just not a dog and pony show that shows up, but something that really stimulates some activity. And hopefully people will come and get inspired, find other people who are interested. That's another thing that happens at a conference like this is you do network with other people and find people who have the same interests that you do. And then you start talking together and you might decide, hey, we need to be really working on this. And we never know who's going to get that little spark and be the torchbearer for all of these things.
Is your website or something going to be a means of communication afterwards, after this? Or?
Certainly, we can make it that. That's a great suggestion to do because we'll have people who come and sign up, because we're not taking any at-the-door sign-up. So if you want to sign up, you have to sign up early, and it's all on the website.
This says by July 15th.
Yeah.
So everybody, you have to really pay attention to the information about the meeting and sign up. They send $10 in, or they bring it with them?
You go to the website, and there's a way to sign up on the website. There's also an Eventbrite one that will go out through the emails and through constant contact and so forth. That hopefully will attract a lot of people, and they'll be really interested in coming. I'd like to fill that room. So yeah.
So I haven't been to that room yet, so I don't know how many does it hold.
They will hold about 300 if we do it theater-style seating.
Well, that's probably what you should.
And so between 200 and 300, if we could get that number in there, it would be really exciting.
So if they have questions, they can contact you.
Absolutely.
And that's some way of getting a little bit more detail on this. But
and if you go to the website, it's kind of self-explanatory too.
So it has a little bit more detail about these different talks and everything like that.
Right. And we'll have the bios. I'm still working on them. I just got some of the bios this week, so I'll be working to get the bios up with the names. I've got the list of names of people who have been invited right now, but I'm going to get it a little bit more in depth so that people can.
You said that this has been held elsewhere.
Yes.
Is that what's happened with there after the show?
Well, it's South Carolina. I'm not sure what they've done for sure, but Iowa's was just last month. So
not enough time yet.
No,
to really see how it's going.
But this is the other thing, though, is when people are informed like this, as we in here, especially in New Hampshire and on Iowa also, we have all the candidates coming in who want to aspire to the highest office of the land. And when they come in and they're holding these town hall meetings, and I've got to tell you, people are coming out everywhere. It's really exciting to see the rooms really packed full, and they're coming out and they're asking questions. And this is your opportunity. If one of these topics really is of concern to you, then you at least have a little bit more information behind you, and you can ask a little bit more in-depth question. Other than just like, when they come in and they say, we want to rebuild the fence. Well, what does that look like? What do you mean rebuild the fence?
What's it supposed to accomplish?
Right.
Are you reaching out to the college or high school in any way? Because
unfortunately, schools are out
now.
Right now. Yeah. So we won't be able to necessarily, except for those students who are here during the summer and they're working on a campaign or something like that, they might be able to come over. It would be really interesting.
Well, there are a
for them
lot
to
of
do it.
blogs too.
Yes.
I mean, you can get your information out that way, because I
Exactly.
think you want to get as broad an audience
Absolutely.
as possible.
Well, we're inviting all of the state legislatures. We're reaching out to through the media as much as possible, through talk radio.
It's difficult
and so forth.
sometimes to get them
Sometimes,
to do that.
but you know, there's a lot of good people
Oh, yeah.
who run these talk radio shows and so forth, and we'll reach out through that, and then trying to do it through the print media as well, and just through people's emails. If people get this one of the PDFs or the information, if they'll just turn around and shoot it out again, then you know, people on the internet anymore do a wonderful job of spreading the word.
That's right.
And
There's
so
a lot of people use that.
Yeah.
And are there any states that you want to really focus on? I mean, you're not doing this; you're doing it for New Hampshire. But
Right.
are there other groups that think that their state needs this also?
Well, I would hope that they would. I would
Okay.
hope that maybe some of the next tier states,
And the
after we do
primary type of things?
after the primary, might be interested in finding out some of this information and carrying it on. Because yes, this is an American problem, and we
Right.
have to solve it. And it's going to take the American people actually talking about it to come up with the solutions, I think.
You want to get people informed and get ready to do something.
Exactly.
That's going to be a heck of a campaign next year.
Well, it's already started this
That's
year,
right, yeah.
and there's some people that are, you know, when Donald Trump came in and starts throwing around his ideas because he can pay for everything, that is a completely different way to, as they say, shake it up. And it's good because at least we're going to be talking about some things.
Yeah, that's how we can do that.
Right, right. Coming
Well-
up with solutions, that's what we want.
Okay, and we'll have you back in a couple of months to talk about your other program,
Well,
too.
thank you. That'll be great.
So we'll just remember at the end of the interview, we'll have the information to contact you and your
Thanks.
organization.
I appreciate that,
Okay.
Carl. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
And thank you for listening in. And don't forget, this is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee. And come to our meetings in August. We'll be having a big event at the Crown Plaza. And information can be found at nashuagop.org. Thank you for listening in. That's it.
Good deal.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.